Right guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is all going to be about the lead wrist and the impact it has on the club face control. Club face is king. We get the club face square. By the time we hit the ball, we're going to be hitting good golf shots, right? And this is a real big part of that. And that's why I've got, just to help from a visual point of view, this T-peg in my glove. But this is a great way to train. So when you're at home or on a driving range, unfortunately you're not allowed it in competition on the course, this is a great way to be aware of where your wrist is and should be in the backswing and in the start of the downswing. So let's talk a little bit about that. Ultimately, I'm going to jump way ahead. To be really good, what do we need to do? We need to be good at impact, right? We can make quirky, funny movements here as long as we're good here. So what do we want pre-impact? We would really like to start to see the lead wrist starting to point down. So the T-peg starting to point down. If that's pointing up, it's a recipe for terrible golf. There's no real good players pre-impact with that T-peg pointing here. They're all more this way. So there is variance at the top of the golf swing. You've got Rory McIlroy slightly more cupped. You've got some guys like a Dustin Johnson, the complete opposite, and as bowed as he can with that T-peg pointing up to the sky. But in that delivery, they're all starting to get that glove pointing down, normally a lot sooner than your average amateur. A lot of amateurs struggle because they get the lead wrist pointing in front of them or up towards the sky. The club face is therefore open, and what do they have to do? Use a ton of this to try and square the club face. Now you can hit good golf shots from there, but are you going to do it consistently? So this is the critical part. But we're going to discuss more the movement at the top of the golf swing. We either go with, well, it doesn't really matter where I am at the top, but in the downswing, I'm going to get my lead wrist to do this. So the T-peg, the glove logo, is starting to point more up towards the roof in the transition. And the player you'd think of who does a lot of that would be someone like a Victor Hovland, okay? So it's pretty neutral at the top, but really changes his wrist angle in that transition period. Or we go with, and this is a very extreme version, and I've already mentioned his name, a Dustin Johnson, and we try and get that T-peg pointing more up by the time we get to the top of the golf swing and just maintain it. Now, we don't need to be as extreme as Dustin, but for the majority of amateur golfers, I think they're better doing it and flattening out that lead wrist, not to the extent of Dustin, but if they could flatten out that lead wrist a little bit at the top of the golf swing, it's going to help them ultimately by the time they come back down into impact. Okay, so the T-peg, I'm going to, on this time, be very aware about the top of the golf swing, and I'm going to hit one, and then I'm going to show you what it would look more like if I was trying to do it in the downswing. And ultimately, as long as we're good here, so if you can get it on a good enough camera to start to see the club face position pre-impact, and we're getting it matching your back angle, it should be very simple. All we've really got to do is start to rotate, and you would start to see here my T-peg in the glove here is starting to point a little bit more downwards, whereas a lot of golfers, they struggle and the T-peg is pointing in front of them, or worse still, up towards the sky. Let's get that pointing down, but we're going to do it by flattening out our wrist at the top of the golf swing. So I'm just going to rehearse and try and get that T-peg to point more up rather than more in front of me, okay? So slightly more up towards the roof. Rehearse it. That's the feel I'm looking for. Go ahead and hit. Pretty good strike, just leaking a touch to the right of the target there. But definitely got the sensation. I was pointing this up now. I need some video feedback. So when you're practicing, your club face is going to seem a bit of a blur in the downswing unless you've got great lighting and a really good camera. So what you're going to have to rely on is the visual of where the T-peg is pointing at the top of the golf swing. So let's look at the wrist at the top, because your camera probably and the lighting isn't going to be good enough really to perhaps see the wrist, the club face, maybe in the downswing position. So let's go with where we are at the top of the golf swing. As I said, we have got the option of stuff the top of the backswing, but we're going to do it all in the downswing motion here. So that's going to look more like this. And this is a strange one for golfers But this movement, and you can see that's having the effect of shallowing the club. I'm not really thinking about the club, but getting my wrist going this way, the club shaft starts to drop a little bit more behind me. So the tee peg is starting to point more up towards the roof. And you're thinking, well, how does it point down towards the ball? Well, as I add some rotation here, you'll see into that delivery, it's now starting to point down. I haven't changed that wrist angle. I got it going early down into this position. Golfers often suffer with this at the top of the golf swing, and then in the downswing, unless they've made a big compensation, that club face is wide open and the tee peg is pointing up and in front of me, not down. Let's control that face earlier, close that face a little bit earlier. And that's a strange word, because actually the club face shouldn't be closed until after impact, right? Depending on the shot shape we're looking to hit. But the club face is opening in the backswing, closing in the downswing, reaching about square, ideally, by the time we get to the golf ball. So we're talking about it closing, we're not talking about it being closed. So it's opening in the backswing, closing in the downswing. Most golfers wait way too long to start to close that face. I'm going to give it a go. I'm not so good at this, but I'm going to forget where I'm in the backswing, but I'm going to try and do it all at the start of the downswing, okay? And maybe you do this in slow motion first. I'm going to do it with a bit of speed because I've got some water to carry. Let's see if I can give it a whirl. Now that felt like it probably went a little left, yeah. So that was me really, it's not a bad result, I know it's gone in the water, but that was me really feeling like I tried to do this. Now I'd look back on camera and probably nowhere near what it feels to me. That feel to reel is very different, isn't it? And that's why we need some camera footage. The amount of golfers I meet when I'm coaching them and in between lessons, and they come back and they say, oh, I think I've improved. I go, well, what? You should know you've improved. Why haven't you taken any videos? Where's some evidence of that? Videoing, everybody's got a smartphone, you know, that's going to record on maybe up to 200 frames a second. Get it on camera. Use some visuals like this and we can start to see, are we improving? So we know it. We know we're not wasting our time when we're practicing. So I don't mind that that went a long way left to target because I was really trying to exaggerate feeling like my wrist did this, that bowing movement at the start of the downswing. That was my sensation at the start of the downswing move. As I said, for the majority of amateur golfers, I think they're better just trying to flatten out their wrist a little bit at the top and maybe doing some drills where they come down to pre-impact with that glove pointing more down, with that tee peg pointing down more down, that face pointing more down, and actually get the feeling of what it's like to hit some shots from there. So I'm going to splash another ball in the water. But that was me just getting the feel of what it's like at impact. You can see a very straight golf shot. So a lot of golfers think from there, I'm going to hit the ball miles left, because they're so used to having that wrist here, not here. Ultimately, pre-impact impact is what counts. But if we could flatten out our lead wrist at the top of the golf swing, I think for the majority of golfers, they're going to start playing some better golf. Give it a go. Try on the driving range first. The winter period is a great time to experiment around with this. If you struggle with high, weak shots, right-handed golfers missing out to the right of the target, this is really vital for you. Or perhaps you're someone who is just too active with their hands at impact, lacking some consistency. Again, this drill very much for you. Give it a go. Let me know how you get on. Do smash the thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, if it has helped you, and make sure you subscribe to my channel for more content just like this.